Hello, we're going to talk today about some vocabulary words. The first word is expression, and in math an expression can just be a number, like 3, or it could be a bunch of numbers interacting with one another with operations. So 3 plus 2 times 5. Now, one of the things we can do with an expression is to simplify it. I'll give you an example with a fraction. 2/4 is an expression. It's a fraction. And we can simplify it by rewriting it as 1/2. Or we could take our 3 plus 2 times 5, and we could do that in 2 steps. We'll do the multiplication first. 2 times 5 is 10, plus 3 is 13. Okay, so we can simplify. We simplify, that's an action verb, and we simplify what? What do we simplify? We simplify an expression. An algebraic expression is one that has a variable in it. So let's say 3x, that means 3 times x, plus 2. So an algebraic expression has a variable in it, and we can also simplify algebraic expressions. I'll give you one example of that. How about 3 times the quantity x minus 2? Now, in order to simplify this, we have to apply our properties. So we'll be learning about the algebraic properties, but the one that I'll use here is called the distributive property. I'm going to take that 3 and multiply it, or distribute it, over the parenthesis to the x and the 2. So this becomes 3x minus 6. Okay, so that is simplifying an algebraic expression. But there has to be a property that allows us to do the operations, because we don't know what x is, and so we can't, strictly speaking, do all the multiplication that we would want to do, or addition, because we don't know what x is. Now, there's a second thing that we can do with that algebraic expression, and that is to evaluate for a given variable. So I might say that x equals 5. And if I tell you x equals 5, then you can take the expression, 3x plus 2, and rewrite it as 3 times 5 plus 2. And then we can evaluate, we can simplify that now. So 3 times 5 is 15, plus 2 is 17. Okay, so we've now seen 2 actions that we can take: simplify an expression, or evaluate an algebraic expression for a given value for the variable. There's one other thing I want to talk about, and that is equations. An equation is when you take an expression, or an algebraic expression, and make it equal to another one. So for example, 3x plus 2 equals 17. And then once we have an equation, and the equation has an equal sign in it, then we can solve the equation. To solve an equation, it means to do some process in order to discover what the value of the x is, or what value of x makes the equation true. So for this one, it's a pretty simple one. We're going to subtract 2 from both sides. 3x equals 15, and then we'll divide by 3, and x equals 5. That's one way to solve that equation. And the solution is the value that makes this equation true for x is the value of 5. So x equals 5. So there's two main things we do in math, and sometimes students will get the two mixed up. One is to simplify. You simplify an expression of some kind, and the other one is to solve. And we solve when we have an equation. So you can only solve an equation, you can't solve an expression. And we use simplifying to solve equations because, of course, equations are made up of expressions that we can simplify and we can apply rules of properties of algebra to. But we cannot solve or find out what x equals unless we have an equation to solve. And so if we have an expression with a variable in it, an x in it, then we can't find out what the x equals. All we can do is simplify that expression unless somebody comes along and tells us, hey, this is what x equals, and then we can plug that x in and then simplify, and that's called evaluating. So hopefully that will help you to kind of get some sense of what we mean by these words as we use them going forward. Thank you very much.